Powered by Sports Interaction, Canada Sportsbook.
Welcome back, everybody, to the after show for the world's shortest overtime session. My name is Lauren Williamson, with my co-host Fouad, and our very special guest tonight, Arda Ocal. How are you, sir? Welcome to the show.
Joining us live from Bristol, Connecticut, in ESPN studios.
Am I the first international guest, or the first since
on
X?
ours? I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me.
Well,
sure.
you are Torontonian, so at first, but
Yeah.
porting in from a region that is not Toronto is you. Yes.
Fouad, listen, I am nothing if not technicalities. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and say the first international guest.
I love
quote
it.
unquote.
That's what we're gonna
I'm glad
say.
to be here. You guys are awesome. I watched the show. I love Steve Dangle and what he's doing with the podcast network. So this will be a lot of fun.
It's a good network. It's a great network to be a part of, and we're excited
just to remind everybody. This is a special episode because in the chat, there is going to be a form to fill out where you can enter to win a brand spanking new reverse retro Leafs jersey. So get yourself in that chat. I believe the SDPN there has put out the link for a Google form. You fill it out. It's very easy to do. And there's
look at that
the jersey.
Look at that jersey, guys.
I just wanted everyone to know this is clearly, obviously, the tags are still on.
You did not wear it.
Certificate of actually, I'll be honest, I wore it for one TikTok, so let's call it game worn.
Game worn.
I wore it. The
price went up.
Hoodie. I wore it over a hoodie, so you don't have to worry about it touching skin.
But we can basically clone you. We can basically clone you.
Essentially. So there you go. So however you want to give this away, happy to do so. Can I just say, I would love to get your opinions on this reverse retro before you saw it on the ice and then after you saw it on the ice for the first time.
Sure. Fouad, do you want to go first?
When I first saw it, I literally said, I'm like, the Office meme where they're showing Pam the pictures and she's like, these are the same pictures. So that's kind of what I thought at first. But then when it was on the ice, I kind of dig it. Like, it's still kind of similar, but the Leafs are not going to go ahead and make like a maroon jersey. Like they're going to stick with the classics. They're kind of like the Celtics or the Lakers. They're not going to go off the beaten path too much. Right. But no, Celtics and Lakers by branding, not by winning. Okay. Sorry. I don't want to mess that up, but yeah, I like it. I think it's classic. It's cool, and it'll look good on you if you enter the contest.
It will definitely look good on you. I thought when they first came out, I thought that they were okay. I was actually worried about the front leaf, the stitching around it, about the tips of the leaf like puppy dogging up. But then I saw it was actually stitched around the edge. So like my respect for that jersey has gone up over time. Yeah, exactly. So obviously it's a beautiful jersey. I like it. I mean, if it's not broken, don't fix it, right? And I think that the Leafs jersey is one that it shouldn't be toyed with too much, or it ends up getting into the category of weird or reaching or along those lines, right? And like you said, it looked better on the ice than I even expected it to, and I think it looked best with the Borja patch personally. But
of course,
I think I
hope they do that all season. Yeah, I agree with you. Agreed, 100%.
They should.
Will they, or is it gone?
No, they said it was gone. They said it was gone.
Okay.
Which I don't really understand. I don't understand that, but
classy that they did it. But yeah.
So we're going to get into the game here. We're going to talk about the overtime. And as soon as overtime started, I was like, I pretty much know how this is going to go. But if you think you know which way it's going to go, make your bet with Sports Interaction. Whether it's World Cup, hockey, football, or basketball, Sports Interaction has you covered. Bet pregame, live, and play are one of our many prop bets. Sports Interaction makes it easy to play, deposit, and cash out. Join now and see all that sports betting has to offer. Want to bet? Head to sportsinteraction.com/STPN. That's sportsinteraction.com/SDPN. 19 plus, please play responsibly. How about that transition?
Beautiful.
That's pretty
Thank
good.
you. Yes.
That's a solid 8.
A little bit more beautiful than the overtime.
Out of 20?
We thought we had a couple seconds to set up. We're like, okay, we're going to watch the overtime. As we set up the game, and I was like, okay, we have a bit of time. And then I look and I'm like, oh, that's been the back of the net. So the Leafs continue to be terrible on overtime, but
atrocious.
I don't think this is one of those games where I feel like ranting and raving about how bad they were, because it was a really fun,
it was a good game
with a lot of positives.
It was a really good game. Each team has a goal called off, one for offside, one for kicking. There's special teams on both sides, one with a shorthanded. Tampa gets 2 power play goals. I mean, it was a nail biter right up to the end until it got to overtime, and then we all knew which way it was going to go.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I know you follow the whole NHL, but you've seen the Leafs in overtime. Like, what do you think here? Like, why can they not execute at 3-on-3? I know it's not even like real hockey. It's just like shinny, but why can't they play shinny?
It's just fun. It's just fun, right? 3-on-3 hockey is fun. Let's be honest. It's exciting. It's fun, especially when it's a track meet end to end. Like, it's not like quality hockey in the sense that it's exciting hockey, but it's probably not hockey that the hockey players want to play every single night. It's exciting for the fans. It's exciting for us covering it. I mean, like, whenever there's an exciting sequence, we're going to show. I remember one overtime, I forget which teams, I apologize. We just showed like a whole minute and a half in a highlight, which is super rare because the overtime was so exciting. One side, big save. Other side, misses the net, comes back, big save. It's just, that's amazing. So we had a 7-second overtime. I think recently, it was it Beniers maybe that scored for the Kraken? That,
it was like right off the face-off. It was like under 10 seconds for sure.
So, but to me, like if you're asking me as somebody who is not a Leafs beat writer, the biggest takeaway is Mitch Marner from this game. Obviously, we are gonna. I watch the game with several different TVs up with every game, so we're trying to keep an eye on everything. So I'm not necessarily diving into the Leafs game every single second of every single game like I might have been growing up, right? But to me, Mitch Marner breaking the record, that's awesome. And quite frankly, when we look back on it, I don't know how much we're going to be unless they continue to lay eggs in overtime. I don't know how much we're going to be talking about this in a couple months versus, remember what Mitch Marner did? And he had an amazing streak. So that's my takeaway, really.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I was going to say, it's so good to see this streak. I feel like this is the first time that Mitch Marner is really getting his flowers from Leafs Nation because, ever since the contract when he had that, it was a public negotiation. It was kind of acrimonious. Anyway, he gets the contract and then they start to lose in the playoffs. And then I was saying, everybody would rail on Mitch Marner. It's like, it's so much money. He's not doing anything. He's wilting in the playoffs. And while a lot of that was true, it's just good to see this guy because he's a superstar player. And then there's no doubt about it. It's just those first round losses. Like, if they had won maybe one or two series, just one. If they had won one first round, had a competitive second round, we'd be talking about Mitch Marner the way we talk about Kyle Lowry or Jose Bautista in this city. People who are revered. And I just really hope he gets some playoff success because this guy's really good.
I think it's gonna come. Listen, Stamkos didn't get to the playoffs into the finals until he had been with Tampa for 8 years, 9 years, right? So they're still young, and while they're not the young guns anymore, they're still all under 25. They're all still really young, and I don't think it's a stretch to say. No, I wish I was.
And thanks for bringing that up, Lauren. I'm kidding. It's like, oh no, the 25-year-olds. I will say this one thing about Stamkos, which he didn't do it obviously, but when he got his 1,000th point, I think it was he was maybe 10 points away. That it was very realistic that he could have hit 1,000 points at 500 goals and 500 assists. That, no one had ever done that before.
I didn't know that. That's crazy.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, oh man, imagine how crazy that would have been. Just I'm big on the random useless stats. That's probably among the Mount Rushmore for the season. But amazing. It's just hilarious. Imagine his 500th goal was also his 1,000th point. It would have been. But anyway, congrats on 1,000 points. Anyway,
try again, Steven Stamkos. Just be better. God.
Great ceremony though. I enjoyed the ceremony. I'm like, they're bringing gifts. The players are bringing gifts it's like Christmas, and
then more
the
gifts.
Wise men are bringing incense and
then
gold
more gifts,
and then more gifts. It was really kind of fun. I worked in game ops for Leafs. I worked in arenas, so I'm always a sucker for all of this kind of stuff. I'll watch and see what they're doing and judge what they're doing. I'll be like, that's funny what they did. So I'm always a sucker for that kind of stuff. But yeah, and then another thing that has been funny with the Leafs, especially this game, didn't go the way they wanted to, but I thought it was pretty decent, was the fact that they have no more defensemen, but seem to be playing well despite it. I don't know how much of that you've been following, Arda, but where did you see? Do you see anything different that they're doing that allows them to play so well defensively while not having any defensemen left?
There's something to be said about the great teams in the league that have a system such that they could just plug and play certain players, right? Like the Bruins had this kind of trouble early in the year as well. And look at the record, look at the streaks that they've been going on. They're still undefeated at home. Also, random fact, Bruins and Celtics undefeated at TD Garden in November.
Yeah,
I don't think that's ever happened.
Friggin' Boston.
Freaking Boston, man.
I know.
They haven't
How
had
dare
enough.
I mention that on the league? Oh man,
They're the worst.
Awful. Wow,
They're the worst.
The whole
terrible. You know what? Troll me in the chat. That's terrible. That's awful.
Shame
I
circle.
deserve it.
Shame circle for Arda.
Shame for shame. I agree. I accept it. Wow. But yeah, like you said, like I mean, Muzzin, a bunch of play. I mean, Giordano's really stepped up, right? I mean, even goaltending, they've had
for
some
league
troubles
men.
with. Yeah, I know. Just unbelievable what his output and production has been. And that's really what it is, right? Players on ELCs, players on hometown discounts. If those players overperform and you can get exactly what you need from the players whose contracts are deserving, or you're paying them the money that they earn, and if they continue to give that output, you're in a good spot. And the Leafs are showing that what they're doing right now with all the injuries and everything, they're able to weather them. They had a bad October. They have an amazing November. Wasn't it a record-setting November for the Leafs as well? Like
I think they had one regulation loss.
Yeah, amazing, incredible.
And
incredible.
They did well last year in November too, right? And then the rest of the year they had under 900 goaltending. And
that was a Jack Campbell thing, I think.
Yeah,
I think Jack Campbell bailed them out. Like the first half of the year, remember we were talking about how Jack Campbell is in the conversation for the Vezina Trophy, and you know what? The
went
thing
to
is,
the All-Star game because of the November.
Life comes at you fast.
And he's such a likable guy, right? Like the Leafs have had that before, like really likable goaltenders that just don't perform to that level, and you kind of feel bad, but you're also kind of like, this is a business and we need, as Leaf fans, they need victories and they need solid goaltending, so it feels bad that you're
it's not the league of nice guys, it's the league of winners, right? So
it's not show friends, it's show business, right?
Absolutely.
I guess
where did I hear that from?
That's going back to the question that I asked in a previous episode about who would be the Leafs NWO. That is a Scott Hall quote, Fouad.
Oh, okay, that's probably before I've watched it. So there you go. It's not show friends, it's show business. There you go. Okay, that's my impression.
That's a horrible impression.
Horrible. Yes. I have to work on it. So as far as goaltending, so I still think Matt Murray played pretty awesome this game, and he's been
surprising.
Been great. He's been great, and I think he's been like Kyle Dubas, like literally bet his Leafs job, and he's like, I'm gonna bet him on that. I'm gonna put it all on this guy right here. It's like at the craps table. He's like, all on 30. That's what I'm going on. So, and it's going pretty well so far. Obviously, it's not in a win, but do you think they're better positioned now with their goaltending than they were last year to, maybe get out of the first round?
For the second half of that season, absolutely. There was really, you have two options, and Samsonov has been great. Like, let's not discount that. Like, Matt Murray has been good. Samsonov has also been good. Like, it's almost like on certain nights, you can see a 1A, 1B situation. So it is promising enough at this point to me. And hey, let's give Eric Shalgren some credit too. It wasn't like he was absolutely horrible every single game. I mean, they did win when both players were injured. So whatever. Listen. The Colorado Avalanche proved that we never thought you could outscore your problems in the Stanley Cup playoffs, and the Colorado Avalanche proved that last season. Darcy Kemper was not the best goaltender in the Stanley Cup playoffs. He's the fourth goalie ever to not start with the same team he won the Stanley Cup with, and he was on the ice winning the Stanley Cup the next season.
Wow.
Oh.
He left the team in the offseason, and then he went to another team. The last one was Antiniemi, I think, in 2011 or when did he win with the Hawks? Yeah, he
2010,
won
I think.
Yeah. And then he wasn't with the team the next year. But this goes to show you, where is the we talk about it because we're longtime hockey fans, and it's been drilled into our heads goaltending's number one. Goaltending's number one. It is the most important position. And listen, I was waxing poetic about that last year too, Lauren. Right? I was like, goaltending's super important. That's what's going to carry everything. And then the Avalanche came around and said, you know what? Don't worry. We'll score a bunch of goals. It'll be fine. Yeah,
they put up a 7-piece on the it's like game 2 or game 3. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, they used to say, playoff hockey, it's a war. But, everything is not the way it is until it just happens. Everything is this is a rule until it's broken. So we've seen that in sports. This never happens until it does. So what you're saying basically is the Leafs are the Colorado Avalanche and are going to win it all. That's what you're saying to us right here.
I mean, listen, great reading between the lines. That's exactly, I put it in the chat. That's exactly what I said.
I'm a Leafs fan. I have to take what we can get and just speak it into existence. I saw it.
Can I ask you both, as people who follow the Leafs as extensively as you do, are you concerned about goaltending?
I was.
No. Oh, yeah.
I was.
I mean,
in the off season, right? They get two guys that it was like, why are they giving up Samsonov? And then, I mean, when they traded for Murray, I was like, at least it's not Mrazek. But
and then he hurt his groin, and then you're like, oh, maybe he is Mrazek.
Now, at the beginning, I think in our first stream, I actually said that if Matt Murray can stay healthy, there's a good chance that he gives the Leafs a fighting chance in the playoffs because, you know, he does have 2 Stanley Cup rings, even though he wasn't necessarily front and center for both of those. He was still there. He still went through it. And tonight, it was 2-time Stanley Cup winner Vasilevsky versus 2-time Stanley Cup Murray. And really the only goals that got past Murray were ones that he was screened for, right? The second goal was the tip wide, and then the third one he was just completely screened on Kucherov, right? So listen, I think
that was one of the best screens I've ever seen.
Oh,
like,
what a
Corey
shot.
Perry was like right there, and like there's no chance he saw that puck. It was like floating.
He didn't even react.
An empty part of the net.
Exactly.
That puck took like a good 8 seconds to get to the net, and it didn't matter.
He's like a matador with his cape. He's like a matador blinding the bull. That
was crazy.
He's so good in that spot. I fucking hate that guy for that.
Oh man.
Yeah. To answer your question, when I saw Matt Murray, everybody was like, oh my God, this is like, I know a lot of Leafs Nation this is going to be a disaster. This is a meltdown. This is everything. Everybody was really panicking about it. And I kind of felt that way, but also the winning the 2 cups and he's still in his 20s. I'm like, I don't know if you forget how to do that, when you're still in your 20s, but I mean, injuries can take a toll on anybody, but it's not like he was Cam Ward where he was like getting contracts because he won a cup in 2006 and he was getting contracts in like 2019. But, if I really hope that this is the Pittsburgh version we're seeing and that it holds up and that he stays healthy, because he got run into like 3 times in this game. And I'm like, God damn it. If you injure Matt Murray right now, I'm going to be very upset. I'm going to write a strongly worded letter to the Tampa Bay Lightning organization.
If he had left that game, Leafs fans would have like flooded the ice, been like.
Leafs fans would have just left the chat. It
would have been.
May I know. I'm sorry. My host brain is like.
Go ahead.
I want to ask you both, if you were to put a percentage of how much you believe Matt Murray is intentionally knocking the net off, what would you put it at?
90. I would say 90% because
90%.
I don't think it's that much.
I mean, okay, a couple of them were. 3 times. To do something by accident 3 times.
But he hasn't done it again.
Because everybody freaked out. He's like, okay, now they're watching me. He might pull it out in like a couple months when the heat dies down, I think. But
in the playoffs, he'll pull it up in the playoffs.
In the playoffs,
yeah, he'll be like, "What happened?" He's gotta pretend that he's gotta act a lot better. Like he's got to do like the whole NBA player. I didn't foul him. I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean? My hands are up. He's got to do that more.
Jordan Binnington glove the guy in the face. That.
What is with that guy? He's just.
That was a reverse clothesline. That was a reverse clothesline. What happened there?
Fouad, what happened to your face? You connected your audio.
Uh-oh.
Hold on. I'm going to fix something here.
We lost Fouad. So, Lauren, welcome to Game Over Maple Leafs. Lauren is your host, and I'm officially the co-host. It's great to be here. And we have a jersey to give away, Lauren.
We do.
Here
Have
it is.
We're back. We're back. We got it. We got it.
You got me back?
We got it.
Okay.
Am I back? Am I back?
Yeah, we're good. We're good.
Thank God.
You opened
what
something.
happened?
You opened something.
I had it on my phone because I was. Yeah. So apparently, if you open Zoom on your phone and your computer, doesn't like that.
Ooh,
so
no, can't do that.
That'll do it.
Rookie mistake, Fouad.
That'll do it.
Rookie mistake, bud.
And we were having no tech problems, Fouad.
I bring tech problems wherever I go. Okay, I just whenever I run these streams off my computer, the computer like starts to melt. I see like the metal just going drooping. I'm like, this is not good. So I'm back, everyone. I didn't destroy everything yet. So, oh man. So Yeah, I mean, I think that I was going to ask actually now about some questions around the league here because, I wanted to say from your perspective, this trade deadline looks like it's going to be a banger. And we say that every year. And then we used to watch like the TSN trade trade center. And then like Radek Faksa got traded for a second round pick. And you're like, oh, that's it. And they talked about it for 5 hours. So like no trades would happen. But you have a slate of guys that are all expiring or, on the block. You got Kane, Taze, Horvat, O'Reilly, Meyer, Carlson. Those are some names that have come up, John Klingberg, Jacob Chikrin. So do you think the Leafs, in your opinion, should go in on one of these big name players? And if so, who? Like, do you think it's a defenseman they need or another winger?
Or a goalie?
We have enough goalies.
Yeah, see,
Matt Murray's good.
That's the thing. If the goaltending severely takes a decline, I would say by the trade deadline, that's something they would be looking at. If it's a noticeable trending low decline, then yes, you absolutely would. The other thing is, I feel like, is the defense what's the number one pairing right now? Giordano and Hall?
Basically.
There's a number one pairing anymore per se. I think it's just everybody is an equal pairing at this point.
It's Blank and Giordano.
Yeah, Giordano and whoever they want to cycle through. Whoever's not tired, get out there. Just go. Just go. Lilligren, get out, or whoever. So yeah, I would say that the depth there, might be a concern. Certainly would want to see. Maybe you want to get some more experience there. Maybe you hit the jackpot and find somebody else that would be similar to the ilk of Mark Giordano. I guess the question I have is, are you looking to win today? And the Leafs certainly have been in that mode for a very long time. And unfortunately, not to bring up old wounds, but it hasn't worked out for the last several years. And so this year there's going to be like they only lost by 1 goal last spring, right? They lost by 1 goal. Nick Paul scored 2 goals in Game 7, and that's what they lost by. And it was a competitive series, and some people would say they deserve to win the series. Like they were very competitive in that series. And
it's funny you bring that up because there was a person in the chat. I think his name was Ahmed Zai. He said that this game, another game we lost to Tampa, another close game versus Tampa, another JT Waves goal, and I'm like, yeah. Damn it, Ahmed Zai, why did you do that? But yeah, it's true.
There you go. But the point is, in a vacuum, if it was just that 1 year, I don't think Leaf fans would be sweating it at all. But because of the history, that's what complicates, and that's what compounds it to the nth degree, right? So there's so much more weight on what happens this trade deadline and scrutiny, quite frankly. I feel like this is going to be a very, very heavily watched trade deadline for Leafs and their fans.
Well, and it'll be interesting because Kyle Dubas has famously not made lots of trades at the deadline, right? The Jack Campbell acquisition was made 3 weeks before the deadline was? Like most of the acquisitions that he's done have been in January, have been almost a month before the actual deadline. So, I mean, it'll be interesting to see if and this is what all Leaf fans have been debating all season, right? Is like, Kyle Dubas is also on an expiring deal. So does he bet the farm on this and change his tune and trade one of the big guys, or does he, stick to the plan like he always says he has? And
I think he's going to go to Blaze of Glory. I think he might look at this and he's like, I'm going down and I'm taking y'all down with me. No, I'm just kidding. But he's going to go on a Blaze of Glory. I would be shocked if they were playing this well and they didn't put the first round pick and prospects on the table. Just going by what he's done in the past, he kind of likes. They're very liberal, let's just say, with their first round draft picks. Sometimes to their extreme detriment. But hey, if you win a championship, nobody's ever going to care about who was picked with that first round pick or who the prospect was. Nobody will ever remember. Like, case in point, I like to have a joke here. Whenever I make a basketball reference, I always say everyone should take a drink. But when the Raptors traded for Kawhi Leonard, it wasn't just DeMar DeRozan they traded. All right, so they traded Jakob Poeltl, a guy who's one of the Spurs' best players right now, and a first-round pick that became their whole best player right now in Keldon Johnson. So, again, nobody knows that, or nobody really knows that unless you're a wicked NBA fan like me. But because they won that championship, nobody sweats who you lost. So that's my long-winded way of saying
winning solves everything.
If winning solves
everything. It really does. What were they chanting? What were they chanting at Prudential Center at the start of the season? Fire Lindy. What were they chanting 13 games later when they won every single game? Sorry, Lindy.
throw the beer, throw the. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry. No,
Well, that too. That was a ridiculous game. Wow, that was ridiculous.
I gotta admit, I was out and I just saw it on my phone and I'm like, what is going on? It's like what? But they won 14 straight games. I'm like, what would happen if they like? It's like, what if they walked a mile in the Leafs fan shoes? There would be no new. If that happened to them in the playoffs, if they got screwed, if they got the Justin Hall penalty on them, that moving pick or whatever, like there'd be no state of New Jersey left. It would just break off and just go away. It would just be gone. You guys would just look at the Atlantic. You'd just be like, oh, New Jersey was there and now it's not anymore. So, yeah.
I think we could use a left winger. I think that's probably the weakest forward position that the Leafs have right now, right? We have Michael Bunting. We don't have a left winger that makes like over, $2 million?
Well, I guess it depends on Alex Kerfoot, but I mean, Alex Kerfoot has just been demoted. I'm pretty sure they're just
terrible game tonight. Ugh.
He's become just kind of an albatross on the team. And I was hoping that it'd be Nick Robertson to just, be inspired by his older brother and just be.
Imagine.
Yeah. It's like, can they just, could they just swap them out? Just swap them out for one game.
Share the good vibes.
Share the good vibes. I mean, yeah, a left winger would definitely be huge. I don't know, this Kane or this Patrick Kane. Patrick Kane's the right winger or left winger? Is he did both? I would have to remember.
He's a righty, I think, isn't he?
He's a righty. Well, I mean, just pretend, I guess. Yeah. So, but
forget about the cap. Who cares?
Cap.
Just circumvent.
There's no cap. I mean, no.
No cap.
No cap. No cap. There you go. With this Toronto.
There's no cap in the playoffs, right?
There you go. So what you do is you get Patrick Kane, and then you say, oh, he has a toothache, and he's going to be out until the playoffs. So that
mystery toothache. Yep.
I am calling Kyle Dubas right now. I'm emailing him right now. Let's do it.
Upper body injury, tooth.
Upper body injury. There you go. Tooth. Dentistry. So
dentistry.
So this is a question for you, Arda. Being that the NHL has been with ESPN, I think it's the second season they've been back with ESPN. We in Canada, I feel like we kind of live in like a bit of a hockey bubble, like where it's like it's everywhere, and we think it's the biggest thing ever. Everything is like we live and die by every game. And for a long time in the States, it's kind of been number 4, number 5. How do you feel that right now, seeing yourself being at the forefront of it in the U.S.? How do you feel that it's progressing in the U.S. as a legitimate sports property for people?
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's like my dream come true. Like I would want nothing else with my career than to do this for the rest of my life. So I'm extremely happy doing the NHL and ESPN. And if it's here for the next 20 years, 30 years, that's amazing for me. I would just love that. I would say that I think the switch to 2 networks is really key. I think like ESPN and Turner putting their vehicles behind hockey is very good in the sense that it's not just one national network or one giant content entity pushing hockey in America. It's now 2. I think that that's very important. I think that there's a lot of different angles in which hockey is being presented and different paradigms and different thoughts, which is also very good for the sport. I think that some of the things, like, for example, and listen, I get it. I work for ESPN. I'm kind of, being a company show when I say this, but like the ESPN Plus has essentially become like the hub for the hockey fan. Like you can get all your out of market NHL games, all your college games, the PHF, a bunch of other hockey related things on there, all the 30 for 30s. Like it's really become like the place to watch all your hockey games, especially if they're out of market. So if you want to watch a McDavid game, chances are you're going to be able to watch it on Plus. Austin Matthews, same thing. So from that point of view, I think it's made it easier for hockey fans to find games and players and stars they want to watch.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, like, I know that like everybody likes to rip on Gary Bettman, and for most of the time, it's good reason. But when I used to see hockey fans like hate on like American markets or not be happy about Southern markets succeeding, I'm like, why? Like, you should want the game to expand beyond our borders. Like when Team Canada, for example, was losing or was not dominating every tournament, I was kind of like, as much as I want Team Canada to win, I like that the sport is growing exponentially, and I would like to see it succeed in the States. And now we know that in the States, it looks like Arizona is going to keep their team as well. That story's been going on since I was like maybe in the 6th grade, and now.
And I get it. Like, people are passionate, right? Like, especially those in like Quebec City, or even people who want a second team in Toronto, and the turmoil that's caused over the last few decades, right? With the blocking and the territories, and was it Jim Balsillian Rim coming in and maybe putting a team in Kitchener or Hamilton or even Markham, Richmond Hill, whatever it was, right? Like, there's always these rumblings of a possible second NHL team that get blocked at some point in the process, right? Even though everybody watching this knows that if you put a second NHL team in the city of Toronto, it would absolutely be sustainable. It would sell out. My humble opinion, it would sell. Even if you put it at Scotiabank, it would sell out. You don't have to, but it would sell out because there's a lot of hockey fans in Toronto. So, but be that as it may, then you see situations like, okay, Arizona and this and that. And of course, Austin Matthews, Tage Thompson, whatever examples you want to put in terms of Phoenix players and what's happening with Mullet Arena and et cetera. Like, obviously, Canadian hockey fans are looking at that and saying, we have markets that would absolutely sustain. But truthfully, I'm with you. Like, I suppose it doesn't bother me as much. I see the argument from both sides of the equation. Would I like to see a team in Quebec City eventually? Possibly. I will say this. I think it was Chris Johnson on another SDPN podcast. He mentioned that the owners would love expansion right now because they lost a lot of money during the pandemic, right? So if we're up to them, if they can get some expansion fees, right?
That's what they're doing,
okay, well, listen, sometimes it comes down to the almighty dollar. So if you're hoping for a team in Quebec City, maybe you're hoping for the owners to get what they want and be like, let's throw a couple more teams and let's bring in that expansion money. Even if you as a fan think that might dilute the product on the ice, it's not going to dilute the owners' pockets. And ultimately, sometimes it's about the almighty dollar. So
when you put it that way, there's gonna be like 36 teams in like 2 years.
40. There's gonna be 128 teams. We're going to the moon.
That's it.
We're gonna do a game. Fouad, you and I are gonna cover a game in Istanbul.
Let's
Lauren,
do
you're
it.
welcome to come too. Like, let's just go. We're going.
I'll cover the UK.
Everywhere.
I'll cover the UK. I'll cover the UK.
We're going everywhere.
Yeah, I was thinking that like the next expansion will just be like Gary Bettman would just be like, well, Arizona is a good hockey market. They got a new arena. 2 teams in Arizona. Like, they're knowing Gary Bettman. That's what he would do.
Better not
like
be.
The Arizona Senators. I'm just kidding. I'm sorry, Ottawa fans. We have an Ottawa stream as well. I don't want to hurt their feelings.
No, that would be Ryan Reynolds' fault.
Yes. Imagine that heel turn, eh? Can you imagine that?
Oh,
that would
heel
be
turn
the heel
for Deadpool.
Turn.
Oh boy. Oh.
He would just be like, it's like, this is my new team, the Arizona Senators. Oh my God. Yeah.
I think Halifax should get a team. I think the East Coast in Canada needs a team. That's what I think.
They're passionate.
Shout out to Halifax. There. Let's go in the chat here. I want to see what's going on in the chat. There's I think we have more people than we've ever had live right now. 105 people. All 105 of you. I hope Arda
you all
Ocal
hit like,
is a
and I hope
box
you all
office
hit subscribe.
attraction.
Obviously, thank
He's
you.
a
Whoever
box
said
office.
that. Thank you, Mom and Dad. Appreciate that. Very nice of you. Very nice of you to write in the chat.
It's okay. My family watches the chat too, so don't even feel bad.
Hello, Lauren's family. I love it.
Shameless.
Like,
Shameless.
For fun, Cameron Gilmore says, for fun, should the Leafs throw the 4th line out there in the first, out there first in OT? What do you think?
It couldn't hurt at this point.
I don't know. At some point, it's just like you just do anything. Just put 2 players out there just to throw them off, because at this point, it's not what they're doing. It's not working.
Put a second
Pull
goalie.
the goalie.
Can we put two? Can we put 2 skaters and another goalie? Can we do that?
Hey, you know what? I did that once in the NHL 02 game. I figured out there was a glitch that you could put 2 goalies in the net, and I was 8 years old. I'm like, this is hilarious. I was like, ah!
Who was it that pulls their goalie? Was it Fedorov? Is he like the coach in the KHL or something? Am I getting this completely wrong? Like, he pulls his goaltender in overtime. We can't do it in the NHL because there's like a workaround rule about it, but he just pulls the goalie and it's just like 4-on-3 the whole way.
That's savage.
I think I've heard that. I think Steve mentioned that because I know he knows a bit more about the KHL. But that's hilarious. If that'd be amazing. I always want to see the NHL coaches and stuff do more funky, weird stuff. Like just have no defensemen or just like try a forward in goal. Like I've always just wanted to see these weird, wacky things. It's a very traditional sport, so you'll probably have to wait another 100 years for that to happen. But
I want to see that. I just don't want to see my team do that.
You just get some sort of like mad scientist hockey coach just wanting to just upset the system. That'd be unbelievable.
I don't think there's any hockey coaches nowadays that are insane enough to do that.
No,
Because now
not at all.
that Jim Rutherford isn't a coach,
Yeah, they say, LOL. Blake Taylor says that LOL, they will sit Nick Robertson for no reason in the Dallas game. Place your bets. That's Blake Taylor. I'm not sure if you know, but Mike Babcock lives in Saskatchewan now, so I don't think that's just a Mike Babcock move. He'd be like, he just looks at the schedule and it's like, oh, play against your brother? Not on my watch, So again, another terrible impression, but no, I think he's gonna play. Sheldon Keefe's for the boys, in my opinion. I think Sheldon Keefe he seems to be a very players coach, as you know by the whole elite players fiasco that happened when he's like, our players are not playing like elite players, and then the whole Toronto media just went like it became like the biggest story of the century, like as if he had said, I hate everybody here, you're all trash, go play in the ECHL. I don't know if you remember that story. And
I do.
The firestorm that was kicked up by it.
Absolutely.
I feel like
big quotes.
I feel like there's so much more respect that the players have for Keefe because he does recognize when there's important moments for players, right? Like with the Borja Salming game the other night when he started the all Swedish line, like, Babcock would never have done that. Let's just say it like it is, right?
I think it's cool. I think it's awesome. I like it. Some teams around the league too. Remember? Do you see the Peter Laviolette clip? Once Ovi broke the record for most road goals.
Oh yeah,
there's an awesome clip in the locker room where he's like, he passes Wayne Gretzky for most road goals in NHL history, and one of his teammates yells, "Who? Oh, Wayne Gretzky? Never heard of him." It's just hilarious. It's awesome.
I live for that kind of pettiness. That's great.
Yeah.
That's one thing I've said. Like that. The one thing, like, you probably agree with this as somebody like in the national media, is that like NHL players, a lot of them have so much personality that we just don't get to see. Like, that's why I really like Mitch Marner. Like, he has a huge personality and he is not afraid to not afraid to show it and be himself in front of the cameras. Like, he's not one of those, we played a really good game there, got pucks in deep, listen to the coach. But a lot of these guys, if they let them be stars and let them be themselves, like, I think a lot more fans would be drawn to the game. What do you think?
100%. I agree. 100%. And I wonder if at some point in a young player's career, especially when they experience that kind of attention early, if they get spoken to by whether it's a veteran, whether it's an executive on a team, somebody of respect, of tradition in the NHL, and essentially said, hey, might be in your best interest to cool it a little bit. What matters is the crest on the front, not the name on the back, kind of thing. I don't know. I'm not reporting this. I'm just saying I wonder, because sometimes I notice.
Sounds logical.
Sometimes I notice that there are players, and you could probably think of a couple that maybe last season they were great, sound bites, the personality was there, and then this year, maybe some of it is gone. Maybe they're throwing out cliches. Maybe they're fed up with the questions they're getting. Maybe they don't want to answer the questions they're getting. Whatever the case may be, it seems a little bit more toned down than it might have been last season. And so whatever the case may be, I'm on the side of, yes, I would love to see more personality, because in my opinion, particularly a younger audience, which is something that is very important. I don't know the number. I would love to know what percentage of a younger audience, say under 26, whatever it might be, how many of them gravitate towards stars versus gravitating towards a geographical team? How many of them are fans of Austin Matthews versus fans of the Toronto Maple Leafs? How many of them live in Toronto and are fans of Trevor Zegras or Jack Hughes or Connor McDavid, as opposed to being a fan of the Maple Leafs? I would love to know that. I don't know the exact numbers, but if anyone has them, please send them to me, because I think that's fascinating.
That is. I honestly, now you mentioned Trevor Zegras. Whoever veteran is going to say that to him, leave Trevor Zegras alone. That guy is awesome. I think he is one of the most fun personalities I've seen in the league. Like, the guy's just attempting Michigans left, right, and center. Like,
it's beautiful.
Yeah, like, and that's to your point about young fans rather, is that like a lot of people aren't consuming games watching all 3 hours of a game. They're consuming it on social media. And I remember when a lot of media in the South were saying, or like, John Tortorella, for example, was saying like, oh, well, I don't know if this is good for the game. I'm like,
skill it up in the game.
Absolutely, it's good for the game. I mean, you're going to have these clips go viral. Kids are going to see it and be like, I like this game. I want to watch more. Like, that's just kind of basic advertising or basic promotion of your game.
Lots of kids want instant gratification, right? Like TikTok is like probably the biggest app in the world right now for youth people. And, you know, a lot of times it's clips like Zegras' and Kaprizov's shootout face-off the other night where they were trading unbelievable
Just
goals.
watch that now.
And I mean, like, moments like that, moments like tonight when Marner gets, you know, breaks the franchise record and stuff, like maybe that's not more league-wide, but moments like that people click on because it is, while it is clickbaity, it's going to lead them to the sport. And if we can get more people watching the sport and we can bring more money in, then the cap goes up and everybody's happier.
So Arda, I want to ask you something more on the career side. So you used to work for the Score Sports Network.
Yeah.
In Toronto, the Score is now a different company.
A
but
fossil.
you know, one thing I noticed about that network is the amount of talent that came out of that network and went to the States and are having success, whether it be a Jackie Redmond and Adnan Virk, and I'm trying to think of a few more, but those are a couple that come to mind. Like, what was it about
this
that
handsome
network?
fella in Bristol,
Right
Connecticut?
there. Yourself.
This
Yourself.
handsome fella in Bristol, Connecticut.
It was a given. It was a given. I was saying that to you. But what was it about the network that you think that like fostered a lot of, like, was able to build up these people like yourself to make it in the big world of ESPN and beyond?
And to expand that roster, you had Tim and Sid, you had Cabby, you had Renee Paquette / Renee Young, you had so many people. To me, the biggest thing was that the Score, when it was a national TV sports station, it was by far the third of three, right? It was TSN, Sportsnet, and the Score. And the Score for a little while had English Premier League soccer. I think it switched over to Serie A. It did have a little bit of March Madness, but by far the biggest property that they got, especially during my time there, was WWE. That was their biggest ratings getter.
Oh, yeah.
And so Elliot Friedman is another one. Like, there's so many. There's so many. Like, I think the reason why so many people succeeded at the Score was because they had to allow those creative people to be creative. Sometimes when you get to the very top levels, you have to work within a sandbox that doesn't allow you necessarily to be as creative as you could be. And that's fine. Like, that is the deal that you make, or that is the arrangement. You know, it's like joining an NHL team and suddenly you're part of a system that maybe that's not your forte, but you will still do it because you're a professional, right? So in that sense, the Score was way more open to creative ideas and shows. Like, if people are wrestling fans and they remember Aftermath or right after wrestling, like that was I'll tell you how that happened. I literally was an intern on the Hardcore Sports Radio side. That was Sirius XM. And we got an email. I just happened to have a company email because I was an intern. I was cutting clips, whatever. And we got an email. And it was from the executive VP of programming. And it just basically said, hey, we're looking for show ideas. If you got one, fill out this one-page form. And if I wasn't in the building, if I wasn't there, right place, right time, I wouldn't have gotten this form and I wouldn't have filled it out as a, hey, let's do a post-game show for wrestling. And a week or two before that, I got advice from an executive because I had a dream to do hockey. I wanted to do hockey, but he told me, listen, in Canada, if a hockey seat becomes available, there's at least 25 or 30 people that are waiting in line. And so for you to break into hockey, even though you're doing OHL, like I started with at the time, the Brampton Battalion, and then I did the Mississauga teams, and then I did the Marlies for a while for Rogers TV Toronto. Like, even with all that experience, that was nothing compared to the people that were waiting in the wings to get a studio anchoring job for anything hockey that would be paying, right? So his advice was find a lesser beaten path. Find something that is a little bit to the side so that you can make your name there, and then maybe you can transition into hockey some other time if that's really what you want to do. So that's why I decided to pursue wrestling. And then I got that email. I sent them I filled out the one-page form and I said, hey, why don't we do a post-game show for wrestling? Wrestling fans are passionate. If you bring it out of Raw and SmackDown, there's already a lot of people watching. They're going to stick around for 5 minutes at least to see what people have to say about the matches. We don't have to treat it like it's real. We can skirt the line. We can, make it so that it's at least like opinions. It doesn't have to be like treating it like it's a real contest. We can say, oh, I didn't like this match because of this. I don't like this character because of this or whatever, but don't have to blow the doors open, which is, that's a story for another day, but they didn't want that essentially. So like that worked. And that show ended up being on Canadian television for 10 years, which is like I'm very proud of that. I'm like, that's awesome. Like something that I just filled out on a 1-page form. It started in December 2009. I was part of it for a few years. Renee was there. Jimmy Corderas was there for the longest tenure. He's one of my best friends. He's a longtime WWE referee.
Yeah.
And he decided to get into broadcasting. He's one of my dearest friends. And like, it just worked, you know, because wrestling fans are passionate. So anyway, all that to say, the creativity was encouraged at the score.
No, we love it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That was something I noticed a lot. Like that. I mean, to me, that was the network I'd go to just because, like, you know, you'd had these characters. Like when I remember, like, it was like the score tonight. You had Tim, Sid, and Kathy, all three of them just going at it. And I'm like, this is like, to me, watching that, I'm like, it was like watching like the Kings of Comedy or something like that. I was like, this is like, I would be like, I'd be like howling, right? So, but about wrestling, it's still real to me. Damn it. Okay, it's real to me. Still real to me.
Absolutely.
Oh man. Yeah, and
I bet you Chad is like, so what does this have to do with the Leafs?
You know,
they're
what?
talking
Here's the
about
thing.
trolls. Actually, I think
I think there's a bit of a war going on in the chat here. So whoever is
there was a whole lot of bots in there earlier. Let me tell you.
Oh boy. Okay.
we have to squash the bots.
They saw your hair and they just went wild.
Squash. It went wide, exactly. What? Reverse retro.
So one thing I have to say is you know, going back to the players and personalities, who is somebody you've interviewed that in the NHL, whether it be a player or a coach, that was that for you was like, this is the most easy and enjoyable experience as a broadcaster?
Rick DiPietro. He's awesome to work with. Ryan Callahan, Kevin Weeks, those two as a team are absolutely phenomenal. In the NHL currently today, Austin Matthews was actually fun because he was golfing. So he was on a day off in Arizona and he was golfing. He was out with a foursome of his teammates. And for some reason, he mentioned Michael Bunting was part of the foursome. And I was like, oh, is Michael Bunting the best player? How far off am I? And he's like, about as far off as you can be.
I think I saw that interview. Yeah, I think I saw that.
This is hilarious. I was like, this is great. Like, just stuff like that was perfect, right? So that was a lot of fun. Yeah, like, honestly, like, on our shows, we've gotten lucky in a sense. We got Brad Marchand with Cali.
He's
so
a
obviously they have their history. Yeah, and they have their history with the playoffs and, you know, the whole licking incident. And Cali basically says, you know, I don't want to bring it up even though people want me to. And Brad and Marchand's like, I owe you all the drinks you want. And we look at Cali and we're like, does Brad know what he's getting himself into? It was just really fun. Just a really, really great moment. Stuff like that happens a lot. And like, I mean, our team is awesome. Like, I just love even last year, like, I missed Torts, honestly. Like, he was awesome to work with. He was even more interesting to talk with off camera because he was talking about all the stuff that he does at home with his horses. And you know, he rescues horses. Yeah, like so like, did you see, like, a few games ago he had like a giant welt on his face, and apparently one of his horses kicked him in the face. Hockey guy. Yeah, no, I'm not making this up. I promise you. Go look it up. He showed up at the game, no time off. Hashtag hockey guy
with a
He's
shiner.
Like, no, with a shiner from a horse's hoof.
Wow.
Okay, this is not a punch to the face. This is a
badass
horse. Right? Like, that is like.
Yo,
like,
I think in the Philadelphia dressing room, if you have a player that's just like, you know, my ankle hurts tonight, I don't know if I'm gonna go. He's like, hey,
and then the coach walks in with a black
horse
eye.
kicked me.
Do you
right
see
in the
this?
face.
There is not one single excuse. Do you see this right here? I walked here. Okay, I didn't even drive. I walked. He was
uphill both
yes,
ways
so,
in the
anyway.
snow, guys.
Yeah,
Uphill
right.
both
All
ways
right.
in the snow.
So before we go, I gotta ask you, Arda, to bring it back to the Leafs, because it is game over Toronto. What is your prediction for this team, this Toronto Maple Leafs team? How far are the Leafs gonna go?
The Leafs are going to go past the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. That's my prediction. I'm putting it in the books right here. I'm putting it here. I am saying it here. The Toronto Maple Leafs will surpass that imaginary line that they have not been able to cross for many, 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 many years.
Too many years.
2004.
But this is the year since 2004, before Twitter even existed.
Before
that
the iPhone existed.
The iPhone wasn't around. This is the year that they will get to at least the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. I am putting my prediction down right here.
Are they going to beat Boston?
You heard it here first.
They're going to... Do they face the Boston Bruins in the first round? That is an excellent question.
Please, God, no.
If they do, would you? Okay, here's a question: if they do face Boston in the first round, would you rather them sweep them in just ridiculous fashion, like 3-0, 4-0, 5-2 games, or would you prefer it go 7 and then the reverse 4-1, where they're down 4-1 with 5 minutes to go and they score 4 goals?
I would
Honestly,
say
neither
the blowout
of those
one.
sounds fun.
Well, wait. So you're saying the Leafs are blowing out the Bruins, or the Bruins are blowing us out?
No. Like the Leafs, in both scenarios, the Leafs win the round. I'm asking, would you rather them sweep them convincingly, or would you rather them avenge 2013?
Sweep them. I like having a healthy heart. You know, I like having a good cardiac.
They never trail.
situation.
Okay, fair enough.
You know,
they never trail. Comfortable. Like this is just they don't. The
Just a
Bruins don't even
sweep.
score until game 4. Got it. Okay, got it.
You shut up.
Understood,
Shut up
understood.
until game 4.
Jimmy Lambert says therapists in Toronto proceed to run their hands greedily. They're just like that's good. That's good. You win the chat tonight. Oh my goodness. Oh, remember everybody, just before the stream ends, you have your last chances to get the jersey. Put it in because we're running out of time. So put it in right now. Do it. So you have a chance to win.
It's game worn, people. "Quote
Game
unquote"
worn.
game.
He put
If
it
the
on
game
his
is the game is a
TikTok.
TikTok about the Maple Leafs, then
Guys,
it's game
follow
worn.
at Arda on TikTok. A great follow, by the way.
A great follow.
There you go.
Make sure
All
you
right.
get those entries in, guys. Make sure you hit like. Please comment on how you liked tonight's stream. If you have any questions for Arda, we will try and ask him later on. Perhaps later down the season, he can come back. It was wonderful to have you on tonight. What a privilege to have you as our first international guest, live from Bristol, Connecticut. So
International Man of Mystery.
that is absolutely correct.
Originally from Scarborough,
Yes,
I think, right? Scarborough. Yeah, you
Yeah,
Malvern, baby, let's go.
Toronto
Scarborough
legend.
Mans.
Let's
Toronto
go,
legend.
Scarborough Mans.
Toronto legend. So thank you all again for coming here tonight. For Game Over Toronto, my name is Lauren Williamson. You can find me on Twitter at Lauren in the 6.
My name is Fouad Suleiman. You can find me on Twitter and TikTok at Fouad_sports. Arda, where can the people find you?
You can find me at Arda on Twitter. Definitely follow all 3 of us. Fouad, I like your TikTok content, man. I got to tell you, I'm a fan. I like the TikTok content. I like that you blend in the wrestling, the NBA, the NHL. You got a nice mix going on. I'm a fan.
I cannot do a niche. I'm way too attention deficit to do that.
You got
I
to
just
cast a wide net. I hear it.
Yep. But yes, everyone, thank you again for showing up for our stream. And let's see who wins that jersey. I'm excited for you. And thank you again. And stay classy, Toronto.
Have a good night, everybody.
Game over! Powered by Sports Interaction, Canada Sportsbook.